Imagine a lone traveler, adrift in a sea so vast it defies comprehension, where the nearest shore is a memory long faded. That was Voyager 2 in those silent months of 2020, floating through the interstellar void, far beyond the heliosphere, the invisible bubble where the sun's influence wanes. Launched on August 20th, 1977, this scrappy little spacecraft was never meant to linger. It was built to wander, to chase the unknown with a boldness that bordered on reckless. With less computing power than a modern smartphone and a radio signal weaker than a light bulb, it defied every expectation, sending back images of swirling storms the size of Earth, rings as delicate as gossamer, and moons that danced with secrets. Jupiter's great red spot churned like a cosmic hurricane. Saturn's rings gleamed like a crown. Uranus and Neptune revealed their hidden depths, their atmospheres alive with unseen forces. Each snapshot was a love letter from the edge, proof that the universe was wilder, stranger, more alive than we'd ever dreamed. But Voyager's mission didn't end with the planets. It kept going, pushing past the heliopause in 2018, crossing into a realm where the rules of our solar system no longer applied. There, in the vast emptiness between stars, it became something else. Not just a machine, but a sentinel, a tiny spark of human hope drifting through the unknown. For years, its faint signals reached us, each one a triumph over distance and time. Scientists at NASA's Deep Space Network would gather around monitors, their breath catching as they decoded data from a probe that had outlived its creator's wildest hopes. But in March 2020, the whispers stopped. The screens went blank, the data stream silent. At first, they blamed routine maintenance, a glitch in the Goldstone antenna, a hiccup in the system. Weeks turned to months, and the silence grew heavier. Engineers spoke in hushed tones, their optimism fraying. Had Voyager 2 finally succumbed to the relentless cold, its circuits frozen, its power drained? Or had it drifted too far, swallowed by a darkness that no signal could pierce? The thought was unbearable, a piece of humanity lost forever in the abyss. But then, on a crisp October day, a faint pulse flickered across a monitor in Canberra, Australia. A command had been sent, a desperate plea into the void, and Voyager 2 answered, not with a stutter or a falter, but with precision, as if it had been waiting all along. It executed the command, adjusted its orientation, and sent back a flood of data, pristine and clear, as though the 7 months of silence had been a mere pause, a breath held before speaking. The room erupted in cheers, but the celebration was short-lived. As analysts pored over the transmission, their excitement turned to unease. This wasn't just a routine update. The data was wrong, not corrupted, not garbled, but strange, as if the probe had awakened parts of itself long thought dead. Subsystems silent since the 1980s hummed to life. Instruments that should have been dormant sent status reports. The telemetry included sequences Voyager 2 wasn't designed to produce. Patterns, repetitions, pulses that seemed to weave in and out of the signal like a melody. It was as if the spacecraft was singing a song it had never been taught. Engineers stared at their screens, their minds racing. Was this a glitch, a cosmic fluke caused by radiation battering the probe's ancient circuits? NASA's official explanation leaned that way, citing a possible system loop triggered by interstellar interference. But there were whispers among the team, doubts that grew louder with each new analysis. The signal wasn't random. It was layered, deliberate, almost reflective. Embedded within the data were fragments of Voyager's own code, but twisted, mirrored, as if the probe was echoing itself back in a language it didn't fully understand. Some called it a survival reflex, a last-ditch effort by a dying machine to preserve its identity. Others saw something more unsettling. The patterns weren't just self-referential. They felt responsive, as if something had reached into Voyager's systems, read its memory, and sent it back altered, like a reply. A leaked internal document, shared by a former NASA contractor, mentioned an unknown interaction detected, a phrase that sent ripples through the scientific community. Independent researchers pored over the data, their findings only deepening the mystery. The signal contained binary signatures not cataloged in Voyager's original programming, pulses that seemed to mimic the probe's own structure, but in a form that suggested intent. It was as if the universe had taken notice of this tiny intruder and decided to speak. Not in words, not in images, but in a language of rhythm and resonance, a dialogue woven into the fabric of space itself. The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. What if Voyager 2 hadn't just survived? What if it had encountered something? Something that saw it, recognized it, and answered. The universe we imagine is often a silent, empty place, a vast canvas of stars and dust. But Voyager 2's journey suggests otherwise. Space isn't just a void, it's alive, pulsing with forces we can't yet name. Radiation, magnetic fields, currents that twist and flow like rivers in the dark. The heliopause, once thought to be a tidy boundary, revealed itself as a turbulent frontier, a place where the sun's influence frays into chaos. Voyager 2 crossed that threshold, and in doing so, it may have brushed against something larger, older, stranger than we can fathom. The data it sent back wasn't just a snapshot of interstellar space. It was a mirror, reflecting not just the cosmos but our own questions, our own fears. What if the darkness isn't empty? What if it's watching, not with eyes or minds, but with a presence that reacts, shifts, responds? As scientists scrambled to decode the transmission, one truth became clear. Voyager 2's message wasn't an endpoint. It was an invitation, a door creaking open to a mystery that might change everything we thought we knew about the universe and our place within it. The stars don't just shine, they whisper, and Voyager 2 was listening. In the months following its unexpected revival, NASA's analysts tore into the data packet like archaeologists unearthing a relic from a forgotten age. What they found wasn't just strange, it was impossible. The telemetry, sent just before the probe's long silence, carried traces of something that didn't fit the models of interstellar space. The patterns were too rhythmic, too precise, like a heartbeat thrumming through the void. One report described localized pressure differentials, a dry term that barely hid the truth. Something out there had pressed against Voyager 2, not with force, but with presence. It was as if the probe had drifted through a corridor of energy, a place where the rules of physics bent and twisted. Some suggested it was a gravitational wake, the ripple of an unseen object passing nearby. Others whispered of an artificially stabilized zone, a phrase that sent chills down spines. A zone? Stabilized by what? The questions piled up, each one heavier than the last, and the answers remained just out of reach, like stars obscured by a passing cloud. Inside NASA, the mood shifted from cautious excitement to something closer to dread. The data wasn't just a snapshot of the cosmos. It was a mirror, reflecting back Voyager's own code in ways that defied explanation. The probe's ancient software, written in the 1970s with less memory than a modern calculator, had somehow generated self-referencing loops, as if it were trying to understand itself, or something else. Engineers who'd spent decades coaxing faint signals from the probe now faced a new reality. Voyager 2 wasn't just reporting data, it was behaving. Subsystems that hadn't been touched since the Reagan era flickered to life, sending status updates no one had requested. Frequencies long abandoned pulsed with new patterns, like a radio tuning itself to a station no one knew existed. The official line was still a glitch, cosmic radiation, a software hiccup, a quirk of aging hardware. But in the quiet corners of research labs where coffee grew cold and screens glowed late into the night, another theory took root. What if Voyager hadn't just survived its silence? What if it had been changed? The idea was almost too big to hold. For decades, space agencies had obsessed over keeping probes clean, sterilizing every bolt and circuit to avoid contaminating other worlds. But what if contamination worked the other way? What if Voyager 2, drifting through the uncharted dark, had encountered a force, not a creature, not a ship, but something woven into the fabric of space itself that left a mark? Not a physical scar, but an informational one, a pattern imprinted on its systems like a fingerprint on glass. The recursive loops in the signal weren't random. They felt deliberate, as if the probe had absorbed instructions it wasn't built to process. Some engineers saw it as a kind of cosmic echo, the universe reflecting Voyager's own data back at it. Others went further, suggesting the probe had passed through a field that wasn't just active, but aware, capable of reading and rewriting the tiny machine's memory. The thought was dizzying, a machine built by human hands, altered by something that wasn't human at all. In the wake of the signal, NASA quietly changed its protocols. Voyager 2's data stream was no longer just a scientific treasure, it was a potential risk. A select team, walled off from the broader agency, began monitoring the probe's transmissions through encrypted channels. No public announcements, no press releases, just a memo leaked online with a single chilling instruction: maintain position. Do not respond unless instructed. Respond to what? The question hung over the team like a storm cloud. The signal's fluctuations didn't follow the expected decay of a dying probe. Instead, they came in bursts, erratic but oddly rhythmic, as if reacting to something beyond our sensors. Stranger still, some pulses echoed telemetry from Voyager 1, sent years earlier, but in reverse, like a message played backward. Was it a glitch? A cosmic coincidence? Or was something out there using both probes, separated by billions of miles, as relays in a network we couldn't see? The fear wasn't just about what Voyager 2 had found. It was about what it might have triggered. Space we'd always assumed was passive, a vast empty stage for our explorations. But Voyager's data painted a different picture. A cosmos alive with structure, movement, forces that push back. The heliopause, that turbulent boundary, wasn't just a line. It was a threshold, a place where the universe seemed to take notice. Some researchers began to wonder if Voyager 2 had crossed into a region where space itself was different. Not empty, but organized, responsive, perhaps even intentional. The patterns in the signal suggested a kind of resonance, a vibration that wasn't just physical, but informational, as if the probe had brushed against a system older than the stars. And if that system could interact with Voyager's crude circuits, what else might it touch? What else might it know? As the team wrestled with these questions, the human cost began to mount. Engineers who dedicated their careers to Voyager spoke of sleepless nights, haunted by the idea that their creation had become something more, a bridge to the unknown. One scientist, in a moment of candor, described the signal as a conversation we weren't invited to. The data wasn't just a mystery, it was a weight, a reminder that humanity's reach had finally stretched too far. Voyager 2 wasn't just a probe anymore. It was a witness, carrying a message that might not be meant for us. And yet the work continued. Every byte of data was dissected, every pulse analyzed, because buried in that signal might be the key to understanding not just the cosmos, but our place in it. Had Voyager 2 stumbled into something ancient, something waiting, or had it simply revealed a truth we'd always known but never dared to face? That the universe isn't just out there, it's alive, and it's been watching all along. The night sky feels different now, doesn't it? Once it was a canvas of dreams, a place to project our hopes and stories. But Voyager 2's signal has turned it into something else, a mirror, reflecting questions we're not sure we want answered. In the months after the probe's revival, NASA's secret team worked in shadows, their screens glowing with data that refused to yield its secrets. The signal's pulses grew stranger, their rhythms almost musical, as if the probe were humming a tune learned in the dark. Some bursts mimicked Voyager 1's old transmissions, but twisted, like a voice calling back across time. Others carried traces of something new, frequencies that didn't match any known cosmic noise, patterns that seemed to weave in and out of the probe's own code like a conversation. The team called it cosmic resonance, a term that sounded scientific but felt like a confession. This wasn't just interference. It was as if Voyager 2 had brushed against a structure, a presence, something that didn't just exist but responded. The fear wasn't that Voyager had found aliens. It was something subtler, more unsettling. The idea that space itself might be alive, not with creatures or ships, but with intent. The data suggested the probe had passed through a region where the universe wasn't passive. It had currents, pressures, fields that moved like thoughts. One analyst described it as a web, invisible but taut, vibrating when Voyager crossed its strands. The probe's recursive loops, those mirrored fragments of its own code, began to look less like glitches and more like echoes of that web, as if something had read Voyager's memory and sent it back, altered, like a signature. A leaked memo spoke of anomalous environmental interactions, but the truth was plainer. Voyager 2 had touched something that touched it back, not with hands or words, but with a force that left its mark on circuits built by human hands. The question wasn't what it was, but what it meant. Had Voyager stumbled into a cosmic machine older than the stars? Or had it awakened something that had been waiting, silent, until we sent a spark into the dark? As the signal grew fainter, the urgency mounted. Voyager 2's power was fading, its nuclear heart dimming after nearly half a century. Every byte of data was precious, a fleeting chance to glimpse the truth. Engineers worked around the clock, their faces drawn, their voices low. They spoke of the probe like a friend, a weary traveler whose final words carried weight. Some believed the signal was a warning, a sign that humanity had ventured too far. Others saw it as a gift, a glimpse of a universe more complex, more connected than we'd ever imagined. The patterns hinted at a kind of order, not chaos but purpose, as if space itself were a tapestry woven with threads we couldn't see. One scientist, staring at the data late one night, said it felt like reading the universe's diary. The probe wasn't just collecting data, it was part of something larger, a relay in a system we didn't understand. And if Voyager could be changed by that system, what else might it touch? What else might it know? The human cost was heavy. The team lived with the weight of the unknown, their dreams haunted by visions of a cosmos that watched and waited. Families noticed the strain, missed dinners, distant gazes, conversations that trailed off into silence. One engineer, in a rare moment of vulnerability, admitted he feared Voyager had become a key, unlocking a door we weren't ready to open. Yet they pressed on, driven by a hunger to know, to understand. The signal's fluctuations began to align with events we couldn't explain. Solar flares that never happened, magnetic shifts that defied our models. Some wondered if Voyager was relaying data through a medium we couldn't measure, a corridor of space where time and distance bent. Others feared it was no longer just Voyager's voice, but something speaking through it, using the probe as a mouthpiece. The thought was almost unbearable. A machine we built, now a stranger, carrying a message we might never decode. And then there was the golden record. That disc, etched with Earth's sounds and stories, was meant for someone else, some distant civilization, some future finder. But what if it had already been found? What if the signal's patterns were a response, not to Voyager's circuits, but to the record itself? A reply to our songs, our voices, our plea to be remembered? The idea was too vast, too beautiful, too terrifying to hold. Voyager 2 wasn't just a probe anymore. It was a bridge, a thread tying us to something we couldn't name. As its signal faded, the team clung to one hope, that within those final pulses lay a truth worth finding. Not a monster, not a god, but a glimpse of the universe's heart, beating in time with our own. The probe had crossed a boundary, not just of space, but of meaning. And in doing so, it had changed us. We thought we were alone because no one answered. Now we have to ask, what if someone did? And Voyager 2 was the only one who heard. The stars are still calling, their whispers faint but persistent. Voyager 2's journey is nearly over, its voice a flicker in the dark. But its message lingers, a challenge to our courage, our curiosity, our place in the cosmos. Did it find a force, a structure, a truth we weren't meant to know? Or did it simply show us that the universe is more than we imagined? Not a void, but a presence, alive with possibility? The answers may lie in those final pulses, or they may wait beyond the next horizon. For now, we listen, we wonder, and we dream. Because Voyager 2 didn't just explore the stars. It showed us that the stars might be looking back.